Is Gino here? I saw him somewhere. So thank you very much for being here with us today. Today we gathered here to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Inform section of Quality, Statistics, and Reliability. QSR officers, especially the workshop organizing committee, led by QSR past chair Kai-Bo Wang and the current chair Cami Panamar, and also together with the members Kai-Bo Liu and Hao Yan has done a lot of work. They have done fantastic work in putting together the program today, and from the very small amount of involvement of my own, I can see how much work they have done and how much harder they have been worked. And we also have a group of student volunteers helped today's workshop, including this reception. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all officers, workshop organizing committee, and let's give them a round of applause. QSR was created 20 years ago by a group of dedicated informs researchers who wanted to promote the research in the three areas, right? Q, S, and R, and their interactions with the rest of the informs community. I would like to say their mission has succeeded by a wide margin. Early today, we have 3 insightful keynote speeches and 2 panel discussions recounting our collective journey and envision the road ahead of us. It made me recall one of the very first Informs meeting I myself attended. It was in the same early November in year 2000 in San Antonio, Texas. It was the first time when Informs switched from not 2 meetings per year setting to the annual conference setting. And the Informs at that time ran a 3.5 days meeting, and so the last day ended Wednesday morning. And my talk happened to be in the 10:30 a.m. QSR session. It's a very last time block. And when I got to the session room, I found that there were 3 speakers. There were Jianxi, Judy, and myself. And there were 3 audiences. There were Jianxi and Judy and myself. And we nonetheless gave the talk as a plan, as Jianxi insisted we should take our job seriously, regardless of who is present. 20 years on, QSR becomes one of the most active sections in Informs. For more than 1 decade, QSR constantly organized between 40 and 60 sessions per annual conference, a very impressive number of sections of fee-paying members only of 300. And the QSR members' participation rate is over 50%, a high rate other Informs society rarely can think of. Former chairs and the board members of QSR were elected as editors of RI Transaction, Technometrics, and JQT. Former chairs and board members elected to Informs leadership positions as the president and as the vice presidents. A number of QSR members were elected to Informs fellows. Above all, in the era of big data and machine learning, and QSR is leading the charge for data science research within Informs. We had a fun day today, and I encourage everyone to take a look at the pictures and photos the organizing committee gathered. I'm sure seeing the photos here bring back the fond memory and rewards the hard work. At this moment, I cannot help recalling what former Senator Ted Kennedy once said: "The work goes on, the cause endures, the hope still lives, and the dream shall never die." Early this year, something significant to QSR took place. QSR founding chair Jianxi was elected a member of National Academy of Engineering. This is not only a great honor to Jian himself, it also reflects very well on QSR as a community. Jianxi was my PhD advisor, but to me, he's much more than a dissertation advisor. He's also a career counselor, an inspirer, a guide, a supporter, and sometimes simply learn and experience the elder who is willing to listen to your side of the story. I'm sure many of you here felt probably the same way. Helped by leaders in Informs and colleagues who shared the common interest, Jen was instrumental 20 years ago in starting QSR, a community we now call Hope. The workshop program brochure has a full interview with Jen Xu. I read it myself and find it very interesting and insightful. If you have not done so, I hope you will take a chance to read it. In that interview, Jen mentioned about how the QSR community started and the section was formed, and he particularly mentioned about the role John Birch played in that process. And we are very fortunate to have John Birch with us today. John was the vice president of Informs at the time QSR started, and he served on the inaugural QSR advisory board. So let's welcome John Birch to say a few words.
Thanks, Hugh. It's my pleasure to be here, and so heartwarming that QSR has done so well in these past 20 years. When I think back to that beginning, what's going through my mind is that Informs had really started out as being based on QSR, on quality, statistics, and reliability. In fact, if you go to the famous unsolved problems that my thesis advisor, George Danzig, solved as homework problems, one of those problems was there a uniform, most powerful test for determining whether two sets of samples had different means? Danzig answered that in the negative, that no, actually, if you wanted to get the most powerful test, it actually had to, whatever your test was, had to depend somehow on the standard deviation. And that quality of doing tests that depend on certain customized characteristics, which Dan brought up in his presentation, that's something that's been through QSR, I think, from the beginning, and actually, if you think about it, it goes back to the very beginning of our field. So for me, it's always been part of Informs, and it was something that I wanted to make sure was a big part of Informs when I was vice president of subdivisions. And I had just been fortunate to hire Jan Shi as a faculty member at the University of Michigan. Jan had been in the mechanical engineering department and had worked with Sam Wu's group. When we were looking for someone, again, I wanted to have somebody who was at the leading edge in terms of looking at quality problems. But Jan was coming from the University of Michigan, and at the University of Michigan, we generally wouldn't hire one of our own students unless they were the very best that there was. And I was completely sure that Jan was, and was very fortunate to be able to hire him into the IOE department. And now Jan has transitioned from mechanical engineering into this industrial and operations engineering department. And Jan comes to me and says, well, now I'd like to get really involved in IOE. So how can I do it? And I said, well, the organization that I'm involved with, Informs, has had a tradition of having quality, reliability, and statistics as part of kind of the fundamental of the field, how the field actually started, even before the field started with Danzig's thesis. I really think that there's an opportunity here to build a group within Informs, because I think that that's something that's missing, and I think it's something that Informs could really benefit from. So Jan said, oh, that's great. So if you know Jan, he likes to say, okay, here's a goal. now I've come up with a plan, and we're going to follow the plan and get to the goal. And he does that with everything he does. And so he said, okay, so what's my plan? I said, well, first thing is you should recruit some people like Susan Allen and Mel Sayed, who have been members of the organization, and put them on your advisory board. And I guess I automatically became a member of this advisory board as well. And then go about putting together groups of sessions for meetings. And so this is how QSR started. I'm very grateful for Jan for taking it on and pushing through and making it such a big success, and for all of you to participate. Thank you.
We also have Sean Henderson here today with us. Sean is not a regular to QSR, so we are very much appreciate that you come here to celebrate with us. Sean was a colleague of John Birch, Jen Xu, and Jeff Wu when they were at the University of Michigan, and afterwards they all left Michigan. Sean is editor-in-chief of Stochastic Systems, a journal recently adopted by Informs. And let's welcome Sean Henderson.
Thank you, Ewan. So, congratulations to QSR. I think, amazing achievement, the growth and where we are now. I think there's a lot of energy in this room. That's fabulous. I think a lot of that is attributed to the energy of the people that began this. And I want to just sort of, very briefly mention you, Jeff. But then I'm going to pick on Jan. So Jeff, when I first arrived in Michigan, Jeff pulled me aside and he said, you probably don't remember this, but I sure do. He pulled me aside and he said, Shane, what are you doing with this simulation stuff? You really need to be in design of experiments. You probably say that to every person you meet, right? Yeah. But it's that passion, I think, that really drives an organization and helps it grow. And I've seen it in the work that you've done for the QSR. We've had some interactions, and I think you should be very grateful for the work that you're seeing there. And actually, coming back to Jan, then, so he's the exemplar, right? He's the person that you want at the fore of something like this. So. I think we've all seen that he's a gifted researcher. We've all seen that he's tremendously hardworking. We've all seen that he's unfailingly kind. And we've all seen that he's invariably humble. And that's a great combination that creates, I think, a leading academic and a leading force in the society. So he's really been a force for good in QSR. And like the force, Jan has a dark side. So I just want to give you a couple of gags about what happened when we were junior faculty back in Michigan, because we should peel back the layers. You should all recognize this. He's a real guy, but his passion and his hard work, I think, and his talent have really created a lot, and you could do the same thing. So what was some of the deals when we were junior faculty? Well, John, as department chair, made us every year fill out our activity sheets, which we call brag sheets, right? So this is what papers did you publish, what grants did you get, all this kind of stuff. And so we would fill out our activity reports, and that's fine. But then all of the activity reports were gathered and shared amongst all of the faculty. And so this is, okay, well maybe, but if we're getting compared with Jan, and he's publishing like 5 times the number of papers that we're doing, right? And we're all thinking, oh man, you're killing us, Jan, and because all the other assistant professors were down there. And I came up with a theory, actually, because I had a conversation with Jan, and I think it was due to the amount of coffee he was drinking. So it turns out that every time he went to the mailroom, he would stop off and grab a coffee, and there was an honesty sheet where you just put the little check mark where you list your coffee. And I remember, Jan, you came to me one day and you said, I had to cut out the coffee. And I said, well, what happened? And he said, well, it turns out I was drinking, how many was it, like 11? 11 cups or something?
More than John.
More than John Birch, yeah. So I guess it was almost getting to the point where he kind of had to be a little careful. And so he cut out the coffee, and we were all waiting for the paper level to drop, right, to near human kind of levels, and it didn't. It wasn't the coffee. So the other quick thought I just want to leave you with, which is that Jan is unfailingly generous, and when we were assistant professors, he would often host us at his house with his wife Li Ping, and there was a couple of really great nights there, and there was one where he was always saying to me, like, Shane, drink up. And I can't keep up with this guy. But anyway, so I tried, and I'm a bit of a lightweight. And I knew that he'd been, probably excessively generous when I woke up the next morning at 9 a.m. not feeling that well. And it took me about 5 minutes to realize that I was probably not going to make a 9 a.m. flight. Yeah. Anyway, so well done. I think it is these people with passion and energy that really drive the society forward. And I want to congratulate the society on a terrific milestone. Well done.
Thank you very much, Shane. So next we're going to ask Professor Wu, Jeff Wu, to say a few words. And people said Jeff don't need introduction. That's absolutely true. I just want to articulate one point. Jeff has served on QSR advisory board for a very, very long time. So we are very, very much appreciate your service, Jeff.
I guess I don't need to offer congratulations, be a kind of self-congratulation. But I also would add some of the anecdotes in the early days about this starting with QSR. I think the meeting was in Seattle, right? John really was very instrumental. Without John's political support and push, it would have been impossible. Well, because he mentioned a few things, I want to add two things. One is dancing. So John and I actually are academically, you see, dancing was Neyman student. So John is one generation above me. He's dancing, he's Neyman's grandson. I'm sorry, I'm Neyman's great-grandson. You are Peter Neyman's student. So actually, if you go to Eric Lehman, my grandfather, or Neyman's student, in the famous hypothesis testing, now probably too old, Danzig proved, the thing also proving Neyman, Pearson, Lehman. Now it's trivial, but it's not that. Neyman Pearson has a lot of historical, I won't go into that. He used control minimization to prove. And that's a homework problem in Lehman. Okay. So Danzig did have a great past. He did some statistics. But of course he was smarter, so he moved to something else. So that's one note. Second note is about Jianxi. Actually, what John didn't say, or I don't really remember, they really gave this guy a hard time. Usually it's one interview done. But I always said, Jianxi, well, we don't know. You come for a talk, not interview. So he had to give one talk. So I warned him, well, make sure if you survive, it's another one you do, a different talk. So that one I was there. And then he made to the final list of the interview. And those days, I think I was in Hong Kong reviewing Wing Wong's Department of Statistics, Chinese University. My first visit to Hong Kong, surprisingly. So then I got an email back from BJNI, the Jianxi did very well. Okay. And so the rest is history. Yeah. But I think I want to say that this QSR is successful by many, many people, not one or two persons. Sudan as the guiding light and the first advisory chair, very important. I think I served for probably 10 years or something. I was the second chair. But I think we just see a lot of dedication, like what Shane said about the passion. We had a passion. You can tell, even from this meeting today, we have a lot of passion, dedication. We have, and I know almost all the past section chairs. So that made us successful. And I hope I live long enough to celebrate another 10th year. Yeah. And I think the way my chair treat me so well, I think I'll live another 10 years. So I put pressure on you now. So anyway, but as I said, I will make one last, not a remark. I think we need to think careful about how we grow. I think we are still too much an academic entity. Most of our members are academic. This is very difficult, very hard, because all possible sort of the industrial members, they have their own societies. So I don't know. I think we will need someone else, young, a Jane Shiba 20 years younger with energy. We need to come up with something to further grow our society. Thank you.
So next, we'd like to ask Dan Appley to say a few words. And Dan is the former editor of JQT and soon become former editor of Technometrics. And former chair of QSR. So I hope you have something to say.
It's the best type of editor. It's a former editor. I can't wait. Thank you for inviting me to say a few words. Congratulations to QSR, 20 years, and Jan for NAE and for being our founding father. And when you think about when this happened, right? After Jan, she was just a brand new assistant professor, to have the vision together with John, and then to have the force and the leadership to see it through and make sure it happened. And then, it didn't stop there. I think it required a lot of effort and work on Jan Shi's part the first 3, 4, 5 years just to make sure the society flourished. And I don't think too many assistant professors could have done that. And Jan Shi's not a normal assistant professor. So it's very impressive, and we all owe you a debt of gratitude for that. My first influence was 1998 in Montreal. I think there's a photo there somewhere. Fantastic experience. First time I've been to Informs and hadn't been to too many conferences before that. And I've been going ever since then. It was just such a fantastic experience professionally, and I guess I'm pretty sure it was a fantastic experience socially, although I don't remember too much about that. I think when I see these photos here, I know the reason why. There's not one before 2003 that doesn't have a bunch of alcohol in it. So we had a lot of fun. We had tons of good friends, lifelong friends. A lot of faces in the crowd today from back then. It was a really great experience. In terms of the origins of it, I was just a graduate student back then and didn't really know exactly what was happening, but I remember Jan telling me that really wanted a home within Informs and felt like it, being an IE place that we really should go, but there just wasn't a home for QSR. Maybe at one point there was, but I think by 1998 it kind of, I guess maybe the applied probability people did some reliability, but I don't think it was really the QSR type reliability. I don't think they like data. Need data to do our style reliability. So to create a home like that, I didn't at the time. I wasn't very savvy in those things, and didn't realize how important that was. But I see now. Really, if you're an IE, you really need to be at Informs almost. This interviewing season. On my schedule tomorrow and the next couple of days, if I got a little bit of free time, I'm pre-interviewing some faculty candidate at Northwestern, and they're attending a seminar to see their talk, and without the QSR cluster being so active in Informs, I don't think we would have had that. And now I'm at the point where I get quite a few people asking me for P&T letters, and just the last few years, it's really struck me how many requests I've got, which means how successful QSR has been in terms of having young faculty well-placed at universities all over the country. And I'm pretty sure we just wouldn't have that if it wasn't for having a place like QSR in Informs. So, Jen was a visionary and a leader, and we all really appreciate that. And I'm glad you created QSR and saw it through. So thank you, Jen.
Thank you, Dan. Anyone else would like to make a remark, something? Jean? I invite you to come. Please. So Jing Li is a faculty member of Arizona State University, and she's absolutely local. So
Yes.
we have the hostess to say something.
Yes, I feel obligated to say something because in one of the photos you may have noticed there's a little boy with the blue shirt and shorts. That's the youngest QSR member, my son. He was 6 back then when that photo was taken. That was in my house, last uniforms, and now he is 12. So I think that photo is really a proof of how QSR has evolved over the past 20 years, and especially in recent few years, we have seen lots of good trends, good developments, and personally, I definitely benefit a lot from QSR, not just in terms of the nurturing environment. Lots of people talk about nurturing. Young faculty has been nurtured very well by the senior faculty and students nurtured by faculty. So we are very family, and everybody is helping each other in a healthy way and a productive way. And to me, I think QSR really helped me to build a mindset of doing research in terms of just the uniqueness of QSR research. Dan summarized very well. It's a blending of engineering model and statistical analysis. To me, that applied to me a few years back when I was still doing a lot of manufacturing, but in recent years I switched my energy into the healthcare field with machine learning, transfer learning, but I still feel that mindset has always been the key for me to do research. I always have the mindset of learning what other disciplines has offered in terms of the domain knowledge, can be biology or biomedical. So you have to have the spirit to learn what is existing in the domain in order for you to build a good statistical model or machine learning algorithms. So personally, I benefit from that mindset a lot. And finally, I think it's late afternoon and people are tired. I want to add a little bit spice into this. I'm not sure if you noticed at the registration area, when you got your badge, you can get those very serious banners like workshops, session chairs, right? And there are also some very funny banners. Yeah, that's him. Yeah, the youngest QSR member. So there are also some funny banners which I think apply very well to us. So I'd like to show you a few. This one is to show our appreciation to our QSR board members. It said board member, so B-O-R-E-D, board members. And this one, I think we all say we're nurturing our junior faculty and students, and this is what they say to us, bad influence. And finally, to all the students, I think you should wear this, here for the food. So that's it for right now.
Thank you very much. Jen, do you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Dean. It's really a happy birthday for 20 years anniversary for QSR. I really enjoyed everything today. And thanks for the committee for putting things together. And also thanks to all the speakers. I think many people mentioned my name. That's really not me, it's really the team, the John, Susan, the team, and also the advisory committee, the first group put things together. And we started QSR session 20 years ago jointly. So that's one thing. And another thing is the QSR session can be here for 20 years. It definitely is a long-lasting teamwork, and lots of senior faculties give blessing to this organization. And I remember in the first, second business meeting, I said something like this. I said, we are getting together to create a home, QSR, in Informs. So how long the forms can last is really up to us and up to our students and students, and also other members. Hopefully 5 years later, we still have the business meeting. 10 years later, still have the business meeting. So I said something like this, and this indeed happened. I think over the years, QSR created a home for Informs, for quality, statistical, ability person here. If we say 5 years is one generation, PhD graduate every 5 years roughly. So this really have impact on multiple generations of people. And also in the QSR, many sessions really try to organize leading, cutting edge research topics. Many new topics created here, and very soon, probably after 4-5 years, QSR has been one of number 1 or number 2, probably number 1, largest number of sessions in the Informs, even we don't have a lot of number. And also the QSR members have been doing great scholarly. I just sit over there, I count. Probably we have more than 16, because I have 16 names. QSR get NSF Career Award in the past 20 years. And also in the past 10 years, the editor-in-chief of Technometrics, the GQT, and IE transactions, quality reliability are members of QSR. So all those things reflect the scholarly work and also the high standard we are holding. And also with different departments looking faculty members in QSR area, people come to the paper sessions of QSR. And in the book, the handout of this workshop, they put together, they put more than 10 years, the awardee of best paper awards, and you can see the names. Most of them are in top universities as a faculty member and also leaders in the industry. So those are something really create good opportunities for us. In my view, we are really a very warm family, and this one I wish can last for another 10 years, 20 years. But from another aspect, maybe we can do better. The QSR as a family, we are very close, we help each other, the senior faculty mentor junior ones, the students make friends, really start from QSR, and then later on grow to industry, to academia, and have a lifelong interactions. That is really great. But QSR as a subdivision is really not visible, should be more visible within Informs. So I think many things we can do better. For example, the QSR officers, when you finish term, don't say step down. You should step up. Go to become an Informed council member, the VP. I think Judy did 2 terms when Susan was the president. So we need more that kind of service so people can be more visible. And another thing is, research-wise, there are more machine learning and the barrier between, either say the wall barrier between the engineering, statistics, optimization, this one become less significant. So we need more interactions than before between QSR and OR and MS. So this really promote research and also education. And this is something we can do better by co-organize the sessions. So we can present, we means QSR members, present in OR, MS sessions, or invite them present into our sessions. So this one can really improve the interactions. And the third thing is, we QSR members have been doing lots of great research, and we should have a working team to prepare the best research results, try to compete some high prestigious award within Informs. This is something I think we did not pay attention, but I'm not saying we can definitely win the award, but at least we should compete. Let people know we are one of the best within Informs. And again, thanks for everyone, and I'm helping on this QSR session, but definitely the success is everyone's contribution and efforts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jim. To celebrate a birthday, we cannot do without a cake. The QSR officer do prepare the cake. So at this moment, I will turn over to Paibo Liu for the next phase of the program.
Thank you. ข้างนอกแล้วข้างนอกตลาด That's a significant part for me. Okay. All right. All right. Maybe when we start. You're the lead leader.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.